They escorted her toward the exit before a single word left her lips. The way they looked at her, like she was dirt tracked in from the street, made her skin burn. But 24 hours later, those same people would be choking on their own arrogance, and she would be standing in the center of it all, watching their world crumble. The automatic doors of the Atlanta luxury automobile showroom whispered open, and Amara walked through them with her heart hammering against her ribs. She was 18 years old, dressed in faded denim and a cotton shirt that had seen better days. Her sneakers squeaked slightly against the immaculate floor, and that small sound seemed to announce her arrival like an alarm bell. The showroom stretched before her like a cathedral built to worship wealth. Crystal chandeliers hung from the vaulted ceiling, casting prismatic light across vehicles that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. Sleek Italian supercars gleamed under carefully positioned spotlights, Lamborghinis in electric yellow, Ferraris in blood red, McLarens in midnight black. Each one sat on its own raised platform like art in a museum, separated from ordinary mortals by velvet ropes and the unspoken language of class. Amara took 3 steps inside before the attack came. "Excuse me." The voice was sharp, cutting through the soft classical music that floated through hidden speakers. "I think you're lost." She turned to find a man in his early 50s striding toward her. His suit probably cost more than her mother's monthly salary. His silver hair was swept back with the kind of precision that required daily attention from expensive stylists. His name tag read Gerald Mitchell, sales director, and his eyes radiated the particular cruelty of someone who had spent decades measuring human worth in dollar signs. "I'm not lost," Amara said quietly, her voice steadier than she felt. "I came to look at—" "Look?" Gerald's laugh was harsh, deliberately loud enough to draw attention. Around the showroom, heads turned. A couple in matching designer outfits paused mid-conversation. 2 salesmen in the corner stopped whatever they were doing to watch. "Sweetheart, this isn't a museum. This is a place of business for serious buyers. People like you, well, you're clearly in the wrong place." The words hit her like physical blows. "People like you." The phrase hung in the air, loaded with centuries of meaning, dripping with prejudice barely disguised as professional courtesy. Amara's hands curled into fists at her sides. She had known, on some level, that this might happen. Her father had warned her, actually. He had looked at her across the breakfast table that morning, concern creasing his forehead, and said, "Baby girl, are you sure about this?" "I can handle it myself." But she had insisted. She wanted to do this part herself, wanted to walk into that showroom and prove that she belonged anywhere she chose to be. Now, standing in the center of that gleaming space with hostile eyes boring into her from every direction, she wondered if her pride had been a mistake. "I have money," she said, though her voice came out smaller than she intended. "I came to buy—" "Money?" Gerald interrupted, his tone mocking. "Let me guess. You saved up your allowance? Or maybe you're here on some kind of school project." He glanced at the watching staff, playing to his audience. "We get this sometimes. Kids who don't understand how the real world works, thinking they can just waltz in here and waste our time." One of the younger salesmen, a man in his 30s with slicked back hair and a shark smile, stepped forward. "Gerald's right. These cars start at $200,000. That's the starting price. Do you even understand what that means?" "She probably thinks that's just a number on TV." Another employee chimed in, a woman in a pencil skirt whose expression radiated contempt. "Sweetie, this isn't the kind of place where you can just window shop. We cater to a very exclusive clientele." The weight of their collective disdain pressed down on Amara's shoulders. She felt her breath growing shallow, her vision narrowing. The showroom, which had seemed so magnificent when she entered, now felt like a trap closing around her. Every surface was too bright, too polished, reflecting her inadequacy back at her in high definition. A wealthy-looking couple browsing a silver Bentley turned to stare. The woman whispered something to her husband, and they both smirked. Amara saw her own reflection in the car's mirror-finish paint. A young black girl in cheap clothes, surrounded by luxury she apparently had no right to touch. "I think what we're all trying to say," Gerald continued, his voice dripping with false patience, "is that you'd be much more comfortable elsewhere. There's a used car lot about 5 miles from here. They work with people on flexible budgets. I'm sure they can help you find something appropriate." Appropriate. The word tasted like poison in the air. Amara forced herself to move deeper into the showroom, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her run. Her sneakers made soft sounds against the marble, each step an act of defiance. She approached a Lamborghini Huracan, its lime green body gleaming like liquid light. The price placard beside it read $287,000. She reached out, wanting to touch it, to claim some small piece of space in this hostile environment. "Don't." Gerald's hand shot out, stopping just short of grabbing her wrist. "These vehicles are worth more than your entire neighborhood, I'd imagine. I can't have you putting your hands all over them. Do you have any idea what it costs to detail one of these cars?" Behind her, someone snickered. The sound scraped across her nerves like sandpaper. "Maybe she's here to apply for a cleaning job," a voice suggested, male, amused. "We should check if she has a camera," another added. "Probably just wants Instagram photos to show her friends." The comments washed over her in waves. Each one was designed to diminish her, to reduce her presence to something laughable, something less than human. Amara felt tears threatening at the corners of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She thought of her father, of the lessons he had taught her about dignity and self-worth. "Dignity is never negotiable," he always said. "No matter what they say, no matter how they try to make you feel small, you are exactly as worthy as anyone who ever lived." But knowing that intellectually and feeling it in her bones were two different things. Right now, surrounded by hostility, she felt very small indeed. Gerald stepped closer, invading her personal space. She could smell his cologne, expensive and cloying. "Listen to me carefully," he said, his voice low but sharp. "I'm going to do you a favor and give you one more chance to leave with your dignity intact. Walk out that door right now, and we'll forget this ever happened. But if you insist on staying here, making a scene, wasting my staff's time, well, I can make things very uncomfortable for you. We have security. We have connections. Do you understand what I'm telling you?" It was a threat, barely veiled. Amara's pulse thundered in her ears. The showroom tilted slightly, and she had to lock her knees to keep from swaying. Every eye was on her now. The classical music continued its pleasant loop, absurdly cheerful against the tension crackling through the air. For a moment, she genuinely considered leaving. It would be so easy to turn around, to push through those glass doors and disappear into the Atlanta afternoon. She could text her father, tell him to handle this alone, admit that she wasn't strong enough for this particular battle, but something held her in place. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was the memory of every other time someone had tried to make her feel less than. Maybe it was the simple, burning knowledge that she had every right to stand exactly where she was standing. "I'm not leaving," she said, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. "I came here for a reason, and I'm not going anywhere." Gerald's expression darkened. "Fine. You want to play it this way? Jennifer..." He snapped his fingers at the woman in the pencil skirt. "Call security. Tell them we have a situation." The woman pulled out her phone immediately, eager to comply. Amara's stomach dropped. This was escalating beyond what she had imagined. Security meant police, potentially. Police meant questions, suspicion, the assumption of wrongdoing simply because of who she was and how she looked. The scenario playing out was older than she was, a script written by generations of prejudice. Wait, she tried, hating the desperation creeping into her voice. You don't understand. My father, your father. Gerald laughed again, cruel and dismissive. Let me guess, he's a lawyer? A doctor? Sweetheart, I've heard every story. Everyone who walks in here unprepared has some excuse about why they deserve to be treated like they matter. But I've been in this business for 30 years. I know who my customers are, and I know who's wasting my time. You, he jabbed a finger toward her, are wasting my time. The other employees nodded along, emboldened by their leader's aggression. The wealthy couple had abandoned all pretense of browsing and were openly watching the confrontation now, entertainment for their afternoon. Amara felt something breaking inside her chest. Not her resolve exactly, but some protective layer she had built around her heart. The pain of the moment was acute, sharp enough to take her breath away. She had prepared herself for possible rudeness, for subtle dismissal, but this blatant cruelty, this public humiliation, cut deeper than she had imagined possible. A tear escaped down her cheek before she could stop it. She wiped it away quickly, furiously, but the damage was done. Gerald saw it and smiled, a predator scenting blood. There it is, he said softly, almost gently, which somehow made it worse. Reality setting in. This is what happens when people overreach, when they try to access spaces they're not meant for. It's not personal, you understand. It's just the way the world works. But it was personal. Every word, every look, every dismissive gesture was intimately, violently personal. Outside, through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Amara caught sight of the street. Normal people going about normal days. None of them knew what was happening in this crystal palace of prejudice. None of them could help her. Then, a sound, low and powerful, the deep rumble of a high-performance engine. It rolled through the glass and steel of the showroom like distant thunder, immediately recognizable to anyone who knew luxury vehicles. Heads turned toward the window. The rumble grew louder, closer, impossible to ignore. A vehicle pulled into view, a Rolls-Royce Phantom in obsidian black, its chrome grille catching the sunlight like a crown. The car moved with the unhurried confidence of absolute power, every inch of its screaming wealth beyond what anything in the showroom could match. Gerald's smirk faltered. His eyes narrowed, trying to process what he was seeing. The Rolls-Royce came to a stop directly in front of the main entrance. The engine purred into silence. For a long moment, nothing happened. The showroom held its breath. Then the driver's door opened. A tall black man stepped out, moving with the easy grace of someone who had never questioned his right to occupy any space. He wore a charcoal suit, tailored so perfectly it looked painted on. His shoes were Italian leather, polished to a mirror shine. His watch, Amara recognized it even from a distance, was a Patek Philippe, the kind collectors fought over at auctions. He was 46 years old, but carried himself with the vitality of someone much younger, David Brooks, her father. He walked toward the entrance, and the automatic doors opened for him like a kingdom welcoming its king. The entire showroom transformed in an instant. Gerald's posture straightened. The other salespeople suddenly looked nervous, uncertain. Even the wealthy couple stopped sneering and began to pay attention in a different way, with respect, with recognition of someone who operated on their level or above it. David's eyes swept the showroom and landed immediately on his daughter. Amara saw the flash of anger that crossed his features when he registered her tear-stained face, the hostile circle of people around her. His jaw tightened, but when he spoke, his voice was controlled, precise, each word delivered with the weight of absolute authority. "Yesterday," he said, and the entire showroom went silent. "My daughter walked into this establishment with the intention of purchasing a vehicle. A simple transaction. Instead, she was humiliated, insulted, and treated as if her very presence was an offense." His gaze fixed on Gerald, pinning him in place. "Today, I'm here to address that mistake." Gerald's face had gone pale. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Sir, there must be some misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding." David's voice cut through the excuse like a blade. "I heard everything, the comments about her neighborhood, the suggestions that she was here for Instagram photos, the threats to call security, every single word." He had been listening? Amara's mind raced. How? David pulled out his phone, and Amara understood. She had been wearing her smartwatch, the one he'd given her for her birthday, the one with the feature that allowed it to transmit audio to his device. He had heard everything in real time, probably sitting in his car around the corner, forcing himself to wait, to let her have this moment of attempted independence before stepping in. "My name is David Brooks," he continued, addressing not just Gerald but the entire room. "Perhaps you've heard of Brooks Financial Group? We manage approximately $8 billion in assets. We have offices in 12 cities, and we have relationships with luxury brands across this country and beyond." The color had completely drained from Gerald's face now. Brooks Financial Group was legendary in Atlanta's business community. Everyone knew the name. "My daughter," David said, his tone dropping to something even more dangerous. Quiet fury barely contained, "is Amara Brooks. She is 18 years old. She graduated valedictorian from her high school. She's been accepted to Harvard with a full academic scholarship. And she came here yesterday because I told her she could choose any car she wanted as a graduation present. Any car in this showroom." He paused, letting that sink in. Instead of being treated with the respect any customer deserves, any human being deserves, she was degraded, mocked, and threatened because of how she looked, because of what you assumed about who she was. Gerald tried to speak. "Mr. Brooks, I sincerely apologize. I had no idea." "No idea?" David's voice rose slightly, controlled anger bleeding through. "You had no idea she was my daughter, so you felt comfortable treating her like trash? Is that really the defense you want to offer? That you only respect people when you know they have money or connections?" Silence. Crushing. Absolute silence. Amara watched her father dismantle Gerald's world with nothing but words and presence. The other employees had backed away, suddenly very interested in their shoes. The wealthy couple had disappeared entirely, probably not wanting to be associated with the disaster unfolding. "Let me be very clear about something," David continued. "My daughter's worth is not determined by her clothing, her age, or your limited imagination. Her worth is inherent, absolute, and non-negotiable. The fact that she also happens to come from a family with considerable resources is irrelevant to how she should have been treated. Every person who walks through those doors deserves basic human dignity." He turned to Amara, and his expression softened fractionally. "Baby girl, are you okay?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. The tears were flowing freely now, but they were different tears. Relief, vindication, love. David turned back to Gerald. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to my daughter, a real apology, not corporate double-speak. Then you're going to show us every vehicle in this showroom that matches her preferences, and you're going to provide the same level of service you would give to anyone else with the means to make a purchase. Do you understand?" "Yes, absolutely, Mr. Brooks. I'm not finished." David's voice cracked like a whip. "After that, I'm going to have a conversation with the owner of this dealership. I know Charles personally. We play golf together twice a month. I'm going to tell him exactly what happened here. And then I'm going to strongly suggest that he evaluate whether someone with your particular perspective should be representing his business." Gerald's face went from pale to grey, a termination threat delivered with surgical precision. "Furthermore," David continued, "I'm going to share this story with my network. Every business leader, every luxury brand representative, every person I know who has the money to shop at establishments like this. I'm going to make sure they understand exactly what kind of environment you've created here. Because people like you shouldn't be gatekeepers of anything." He let those words hang in the air for a moment. Then, finally, Amara spoke. Her voice was quiet but clear, carrying across the showroom. "Respect isn't bought with money or cars or expensive clothes. Respect is something you give to people because they're people, because their humanity matters, regardless of what you think they can afford." She walked over to the lime green Lamborghini she had tried to look at earlier. This time, she placed her hand flat against its hood, claiming her right to touch it, to exist in this space. "You judged me based on your assumptions. You decided I didn't belong before you knew anything about me. That says everything about who you are and nothing about who I am." Gerald stood frozen, destroyed. Around them, the other employees looked sick with guilt and fear for their own jobs. David placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Amara chose a car yesterday, actually, before she was asked to leave. She was looking at that Lamborghini Huracan over there, the white one with the black accents. We'll take it. Full price, no negotiations. And we'll be paying in cash, just to make this simple." He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Janet?" "Yes, it's David. I need you to wire $285,000 to..." He glanced at Gerald. "What's the account information for this dealership?" Gerald stammered out the numbers, his hands shaking. The transaction took less than 10 minutes. David and Amara stood together in the center of the showroom while the money was transferred and the paperwork was prepared. Other employees, sensing an opportunity to distance themselves from Gerald's disaster, fell over themselves to be helpful, to smile at Amara, to pretend they hadn't been part of the cruelty just minutes before. Amara ignored them. She didn't need their performative courtesy now. She had already learned everything she needed to know about their character. When the keys were finally handed over, to Amara directly, not to her father, David said one final thing to Gerald. "I meant what I said about speaking to Charles. What happened here was unacceptable, but I'm also going to give you one piece of advice, free of charge. Change. Examine your prejudices. Question your assumptions. Because the world is changing whether you like it or not, and people like my daughter, brilliant, capable, deserving people, are going to claim every space they choose to occupy. You can either evolve or become obsolete. Your choice." Amara and her father walked out of the showroom together. Behind them, Gerald stood alone in the wreckage of his arrogance, surrounded by luxury he had used as a weapon to hurt someone he deemed unworthy. Outside, the Atlanta sun was warm on Amara's face. Her new car gleamed in the parking lot, white and perfect, a symbol not of wealth but of justice, of dignity affirmed, of a battle fought and won. David pulled her into a hug. "I'm so proud of you," he said quietly, "for not running, for standing your ground." Amara hugged him back, finally allowing herself to feel the full weight of what had happened, the pain and the triumph mixed together. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. "Always, baby girl. Always." They stood there for a moment. Father and daughter, two black people who had navigated a world designed to tell them they didn't belong, and had refused to accept that lie. Then Amara climbed into her new Lamborghini, felt the leather seats, heard the engine roar to life, and drove away from that showroom knowing that she had claimed her space, her dignity, and her right to exist exactly as she was. Inside the dealership, the classical music continued to play. The luxury cars remained on their pedestals, but something fundamental had shifted. A crack had appeared in the perfect facade, and through that crack, the light of accountability had begun to shine.